My name is Ramadani Sassi. I'm Sudanese. I met Fernando Bellver in Egypt 2 years ago. I was working there with a Canadian archaeologist, and he was exhibiting his works in Cairo. I promised him that if he came to Sudan, I would take him to see wonderful ancient places in Egypt that are even more impressive than the Temple of Luxor or Abu Simbel. Until recently, these places could not be visited, but now you can go there. Ever since my country has been open to archaeologists and Western tourists, I do not need to leave in order to find work. Instead, I work with them.
The time of departure for a place where I've never been before is always a time that gives me a strange sensation of fear and relief at the same time. Traveling is a change in routine for another reality that ends up changing you. The beginning of a trip is similar to the creative process. It's a flash that passes through your brain, which illuminates you and blinds you at the same time. The image flows through my brain, and little by little, while I paint the picture, this idea begins to transform into new figures that create a different world, one that was also inside me. This is a trip, the beginning of something new that I imagined, which becomes real by the force of time and unforeseen geographies.
One must travel more than 80 miles from Elephantine Island. Then enter a plain where the Nile runs among the islands and reaches a great lake in which the nomads graze their animals. After crossing the lake, one enters a channel of the Nile and should disembark in order to walk parallel to the water for 40 days. There are many stones and slopes that make it impossible to travel on the water. Then, once again, one gets in the boat and sails for another 12 days in order to finally reach the city that they call Meroe. They say it is the capital. They only know Zeus and Dionysus, whom they worship passionately. This is the description of the route of Meroe, written by Herodotus in 430 BC. It is also the first time that this city was mentioned in classical Greek literature. Meroe was the capital of the empire that dominated Upper Egypt from the 10th century BC until the modern era. Meroe is also remembered by Herodotus, who calculated the circumference of the Earth, the 7 latitudes, and their climates. He used this city as a reference point, one that has been valid until modern times. Meroe was a complex with more than 500 pyramids that the Italian Giuseppe Ferlini strove to blow up in order to bring to light the enormous treasure that was hidden in their interior. With the pretext of archaeological research, he started to destroy them one by one until he found the gold. Bracelets, rings, figurines dedicated to the gods. All kinds of objects of worship that ended up in his private collection first and at the Berlin and Munich museums later. The splendor of Egypt's archaeological wealth has outshined the value of the Sudanese legacy. Starting from the year 2300 BC, the kingdoms of the pharaohs began to expand towards the south and changed this land into one of the most productive colonies. About 40 tons of gold was taken from this land each year, gold that was used to amplify the treasures of the different pharaohs. The remains of this grandeur could be seen in the faraway southern provinces. But around the year 1000, the Nubians conquered the north and unified Upper and Lower Egypt.
And at the top, we put gold M, no?
Oh, they put them down.
The gold is down.
It's down.
That, with the death.
Meroe was one of the capitals, and Jebel Barkal, an important temple dedicated to the god Ammon. The capital of the Egyptian Empire, based in the south, was Napata. The temple of Jebel Barkal sat near what was once this city. It was built at the foot of the mountain, a position from where it was easy to dominate the movements of the sun over the axis of the river.
Ramadan was right when he told me in Cairo that his country was going to surprise me. We have only been traveling for a few days, and I feel as if I have been here for a long time. There are places that are able to provoke this strange sensation, the sensation that time stops around you, as if the trip constantly develops in a closed space, from which you cannot escape without a magic formula. Sudan gives me this weightless sensation. This happens to me in places where the colors seem to be invented. The light and the color in northern Sudan are not familiar to me. They are ancient colors, colors that are so close to the earth that they seem to belong to a world that we thought was lost forever. But they are here. They are the colors and the light with which everything must have started.
In the 4th century AD, Nubia fell under the Christian kingdom of Aksum in Ethiopia. Christianity spread, and Dongola was the center of the new religion that had just settled in Nubian territory. During this time, trade relations with the south stabilized, and this part of the river was the witness to the increasing presence of slaves, ivory, animal skins, and ebony. Later on, in the 7th century, the flood of Arabs coming from Egypt took control of Nubia, and the process of converting the people to Islam began, one that has continued down to today.